He heard his own brother say it. Burn the house. Tonight. With Grandma still inside. And he said nothing. He kept both hands on the steering wheel, his eyes on the road, his face as still as the surface of a river that hides everything underneath. Because that is what Samuel Adewale Okonkwo had learned to do in 41 years of living. Hold the pain inside, keep moving, and trust that God sees what men think they are hiding. But today, God was going to need some help. If this story already has your heart, hit that like button right now, subscribe so you never miss a story like this one, and tell us in the comments, are you watching from Lagos, London, Accra, or New York? Drop your city below. We want to know where our family is. Now, let us go back to the beginning. The city of Lagos wakes up the same way every single morning. Not gently, not with birdsong or soft light through curtains, but with noise. 1,000 noises erupting all at once, as if the city itself is angry at anyone who dared to sleep. The horns of Danfo buses, the shouting of Agbero boys hanging from the sides of yellow minivans, the distant cry of a woman selling akara at the corner of a Ryle road, her voice cutting clean through the thick morning air before 6 o'clock has even arrived, the smell of frying oil and exhaust smoke rising together, inseparable, the perfume of a city that never truly rests. Into this world, Samuel Adewale Okonkwo steps every single morning, and he does so without complaint. He is not a tall man, but he carries himself with a quietness that makes him seem larger than he is. His hands are calloused, the right more than the left, from 11 years of gripping a steering wheel for 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. His face is the color of deep mahogany, lined at the corners of his eyes, not from age alone but from years of squinting against Harmattan dust and afternoon sun through a windshield with a crack he has not yet saved enough to fix. He is 41 years old. On hard days he looks 50. On the rare good days, when he has slept well, when Mama called, when the road was merciful, he looks like a man of 35, full of unspoken fire that has nowhere yet to go. This morning is a Thursday. Samuel is already awake by 5:15, seated at the small wooden table in his one-room apartment in Ajegunle, spooning ogi slowly into his mouth, staring at nothing in particular. The room smells of yesterday's pepper soup and the particular mustiness of a space where a man lives alone and tries to keep everything clean, but cannot fight the dampness that creeps through old concrete walls in rainy season. A single bulb hangs from the ceiling. A small photograph is pinned carefully above the door. A woman in her late 60s, round-faced, wearing a red and gold jewel, smiling with her whole body, not just her mouth. His grandmother, Mama Chidinma. "Today I drive well," Samuel says quietly to himself, the way a man speaks a private promise to God and to his own spirit. He says it every morning. It costs nothing. It reminds him of everything. He washes his bowl, buttons his clean but faded blue shirt, the one with the small Uber insignia the company gave him 3 years ago, and picks up his keys from the hook behind the door. He pauses, as he always does, in front of the photograph. He presses 2 fingers to his lips. Then to the photo. "Watch over me, Mama, and watch over yourself." He steps out into the noise and disappears into it. By 7 in the morning, Samuel has already completed 3 trips. A man in a suit going to Victoria Island. A university student with a backpack larger than herself heading to Unilag. A quiet woman with a baby tied to her back who said nothing the entire journey, but left a folded 100 naira note on the back seat, which Samuel only discovered at his next stop. He holds it between his fingers for a long moment. 100 naira. She probably needed it more than he did. He does not feel pity. He does not feel sadness. He tucks it carefully into the small compartment under the dashboard, what he privately calls his blessing box, where he keeps anything unexpected that finds its way to him. A tip, an extra coin. Once, a small orange a passenger left behind that he ate slowly, parked under a tree when the afternoon hunger became too serious to ignore. His phone buzzes. A new ride request. He taps to accept. The pickup is in Surulere. He knows that part of the city the way a man knows his own neighborhood, without thinking, without maps. He turns left past the market, where the smell of dried fish hits you like a wall before you even see the stalls. Then right, along the road, where a group of young men are already playing football with a half-flat ball in a dusty clearing, their laughter loud and free in the morning air, unbothered by anything the world has planned for them today. He pulls up in front of a yellow gate. The gate opens. A man steps out. The man is well dressed, not loudly, no gold chains, no designer logos shouting from across the street, but the kind of well-dressed that whispers money rather than announces it. He is perhaps 38, 39. Something about his eyes, though, makes him seem older. A calculation that lives permanently behind them, like a man who has spent so many years measuring people that he no longer knows how to simply look at them. He holds his phone to his ear already, speaking in the low, fast voice of someone closing a deal before the other person can think too carefully. He has Samuel's nose, Samuel's chin, a similar jaw, carried differently with an upward tilt, a slight backward lean, the posture of a man who has decided the world should look up to reach him. His name, according to the app, is Dennis A. He does not greet Samuel when he gets in. He does not say good morning. He does not look at the driver's seat at all. "I'm telling you, Emeka," Dennis says into the phone, pulling the door shut behind him. "This is the time. The old woman is not well. She will not be well again. You know this. The house alone is worth 40 million. 40. And the insurance policy..." A pause. His voice drops, but not enough. Not nearly enough. The insurance on that house is 15 million naira. All we need is for something to happen to it tonight. You understand what I'm saying to you? Samuel's hands tighten on the steering wheel. Not visibly, not in a way anyone watching would notice. Just the tendons in his forearms, pulling slightly. A man holding himself in place by force of will alone. He keeps his eyes on the road. He has learned over 11 years of driving strangers through this city to become invisible. People say things in the back seat of a car that they would never say in a room with walls and witnesses. They forget that the driver is a human being with ears, with memory, with a heart that receives everything, even when the face shows nothing. Samuel's ears are receiving everything. "No, no," Dennis continues, impatient now, tapping a finger against the leather seat in a slow, certain rhythm. "Not in the daytime. Obviously not. Tonight. The old woman sleeps early. She is in bed by 9 o'clock, you know this. And she is nearly deaf on the left side now, Emeka. By the time anyone sees the smoke..." A short, quiet laugh, businesslike, cold. "It will look like an electrical fault. These old houses, their wiring is 40 years old. Nobody will question it. Nobody." Samuel blinks. Once, slowly. Like a man who has just heard something so enormous that his body needs a full breath before it can continue to function. He knows who the old woman is. He has known it from the moment Dennis sat in the car, known it in his chest, the way you know certain things before your mind gives them language. He has not allowed himself to think it clearly until this exact second, because the truth of it, fully formed, is almost too large to carry and still keep the car between the lines. The old woman is Mama Chidinma, his grandmother, the woman in the photograph above his door. And Dennis, well-dressed Dennis with the upward chin and the cold laugh and the finger tapping against the leather seat, is Samuel's elder brother. Can you feel that? That tightening in your chest right now. That is Africa's truth doing what it always does. If someone you love needs to hear a story like this today, share this video with them right now. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were sitting in that driver's seat? We are reading every single comment. Now let us continue. There are things no amount of suffering can prepare a man for. Samuel has driven through flooded roads, through riots, through the particular loneliness of Christmas morning in a city that does not belong to him. He has buried his parents, both of them in the same year, on the same road outside Onitsha, when he was 19 years old. He has carried grief the way some men carry a scar, quietly, without showing it to strangers, without asking anyone to acknowledge the weight. But this is a different kind of weight entirely. He thinks of Mama Chidinma's house in Enugu, the veranda where she sat every evening as the light turned orange, shelling groundnuts into a bowl between her knees, humming old church songs under her breath, in a voice that was never meant to be heard by anyone but God. The smell of that house, bitter leaf and camphor and old wood, and something that had no name, something that was simply her, the accumulated warmth of a woman who had lived long enough to fill every corner of a space with her presence. He thinks of the walls where he first learned to read. Sitting in the corner with a tattered primer while Dennis, even then at 10 years old, was already calculating, already arranging the world around himself, already asking, "What do I get? How much is mine? What can I take?" Dennis, whom their grandmother raised after the accident. Dennis, the elder son, whom Mama Chidinma fed first and carried first, in the old way, believing the elder must be strengthened before the younger, not knowing that this particular love, applied without balance, was quietly building something dangerous inside the boy she was trying to bless. Dennis, who returned from Lagos at 26, in a car that did not belong to him, with money that had no name, wearing a watch he touched too often, the way people handle things they are not sure they deserve. And now this. Tonight. "Hold on," Dennis says into the phone. He glances up at the rearview mirror for the first time, the back of a driver's head, a faded blue shirt. Nothing remarkable. He looks back down at his lap. "Yes, I'm here. Nobody. Just my driver. Now, about the money. When it comes through, your share is—" "My driver." The words move through the air of the car like smoke, slow and shapeless. Samuel thinks of a proverb Mama Chidinma taught him when he was 9 years old, sitting beside her on the veranda as the first fireflies appeared above the compound grass, blinking like small prayers in the gathering dark. The child who watches in silence learns what the loud child will never know. He is watching. He is silent. He is learning exactly what he needs to know. And tonight, before his brother's plan becomes fire, before 15 million naira can be made worth more than one old woman's life, Samuel Adewale Okonkwo is going to have to become something he has never been before. Not just a driver, not just a quiet man who holds the pain inside and keeps moving. Something more. And it begins now. Samuel drops Dennis at a glass-fronted office building on Broad Street, Victoria Island, at exactly 8:27 in the morning, 3 minutes ahead of the time he promised. Dennis gets out without a word. No thank you. No goodbye. He is already dialing again before his second foot touches the pavement, his shoulders squared, his chin lifted, walking into the building the way a man walks when he believes the world was arranged specifically for his arrival. Samuel watches him go. He sits in the parked car for 1 minute and 40 seconds. He counts them without meaning to, the way a man counts when his mind needs something simple to hold on to, while the rest of him processes something enormous. He watches Dennis disappear through the revolving glass door. He watches the door spin and settle. He watches a security guard nod at Dennis without being greeted in return. Then Samuel puts the car in drive and pulls back into traffic. He does not take another ride request for 23 minutes. This is something he has never done before on a Thursday morning, which is one of his best earning days. 23 minutes of driving without the app active, without a destination, without a passenger. Just him and the road and the thing sitting in his chest that has no name yet, because he has not decided what to do with it. He drives past the Lagos Lagoon. The water is brown and wide this morning, catching the light in broken pieces. A fisherman is out on a small wooden boat, very far from the shore, his silhouette perfectly still against the glittering water, his line dropped into the deep. Samuel watches him for the 3 seconds the road allows, then the bridge curves and the fisherman is gone. He thinks, that man woke up this morning knowing exactly what he was going to do. Cast the line. Wait. Pull what comes. Samuel does not yet know what he is going to do. He knows what he heard. He knows what it means. He knows that tonight, if he does nothing, men will come to an old house in Enugu, where an old woman sleeps nearly deaf on her left side, and they will do what his brother has arranged for them to do. He knows the wiring in that house is indeed 40 years old, because he helped Mama Chidinma pay an electrician to look at it 2 years ago, and the man said it was fine, it was holding, but one day it would need proper attention. He knows which room she sleeps in. He knows the front room faces the street, and the back of the house faces a compound wall with no neighbors close enough to smell smoke quickly. He knows all of this the way a man knows the home he grew up in, without trying, without effort, with the particular sharpness of love. His phone buzzes. A ride request. He stares at it for a moment, then accepts. He needs to think, and he thinks best when he is driving. The passenger is an older gentleman, perhaps 70, waiting outside a pharmacy in Ikoyi with a small white paper bag in one hand and a walking stick in the other. Samuel gets out of the car, something he does not always do, but does when he sees someone who needs the extra moment, and opens the passenger door for him. The old man looks up at him with the particular surprise of someone who has stopped expecting small kindnesses. His face is deeply lined, his hair completely white at the temples, his eyes sharp and warm behind thick-framed glasses. "Thank you, my son," he says. His voice carries the unhurried weight of a man who has lived long enough to mean what he says. "Welcome, sir," Samuel replies. "Take your time." He helps the man settle into the seat, takes the paper bag from him and places it carefully on the seat beside him, closes the door gently, and returns to the wheel. The old man's name, according to the app, is Emmanuel O. His destination is a residential address in Lekki Phase 1, 22 minutes in normal traffic. Perhaps 35 this morning. They drive in silence for a while. Samuel prefers passengers who do not feel the need to fill every moment with words. This man is one of those. He sits with his walking stick resting between his knees, his hands folded over the handle, looking out the window at the city passing by, with the expression of a man watching something he has seen change so many times that he no longer judges it, only observes. After perhaps 10 minutes, the old man speaks. "You are troubled," he says, simply, not a question. Samuel glances in the rear-view mirror. "Sir, a man who is not troubled does not grip a steering wheel the way you are gripping it right now." The old man's eyes meet his in the mirror, calm, unhurried. "I am 73 years old. I have seen enough troubled men to know one without being told." Samuel loosens his hands deliberately. He had not noticed. "I am fine, sir," he says. The polite answer, the reflex answer. The old man says, in the way that Nigerians say when they have heard something they are choosing not to argue with. He looks back out the window. "You know what my father used to say? He used to say, a man who carries a heavy stone alone will either put it down or fall under it. There is no third option." Samuel says nothing. The car moves through traffic. A hawker presses a tray of pure water sachets against the window at a red light, and Samuel shakes his head gently, and the hawker moves on. "Is there someone you need to protect?" the old man asks. Samuel looks in the mirror again. The old man is not looking at him now. He is looking out the window, his voice as casual as if he is commenting on the weather, as if the question costs him nothing to ask, and will cost Samuel nothing to answer, or not answer. And something about that, the casualness of it, the absence of pressure, loosens something in Samuel's chest that has been locked since 8:27 this morning. "My grandmother," Samuel says. The first time he has said it aloud. It sounds different spoken than it is felt inside. Smaller in some ways, heavier in others. The old man nods slowly. He does not turn around. He does not ask the follow-up question that most people would ask. He simply nods, as if Samuel has confirmed something he already understood. "Then you already know what you must do," the old man says. "The question is only whether you will find the courage before it is too late. And I think—" He pauses, adjusting his glasses with one finger. "I think you will. You are the kind of man who does not abandon those who depend on him. I can see it. It is in how you drive." Samuel almost asks him what he means, but he does not. He keeps his eyes on the road. They arrive in Lekki Phase 1 at 9:41. Samuel parks in front of a modest but well-kept bungalow behind a low fence with bougainvillea growing over the gate. He gets out, opens the door, retrieves the paper bag, and holds the old man's elbow as he finds his footing on the pavement. Emmanuel O. straightens, takes his walking stick, and turns to look at Samuel fully for the first time since getting into the car. His eyes, behind those thick glasses, are extraordinarily still. "Whatever it is," the old man says quietly, "do not wait until tonight to begin." He presses something into Samuel's hand. Samuel looks down. It is a 1,000 naira note, folded twice. "Sir, it is too much." "It is what I have in my pocket," the old man says simply. and you are going to need fuel. He turns and walks toward his gate, moving slowly, but without uncertainty, as if he knows exactly where every step will land. Samuel stands beside the car for a moment, holding the folded note. He puts it in the blessing box. He gets back in. He sits very still for 10 seconds. Then he picks up his phone, not the ride app, but his contacts, and scrolls to a name he has not called in 4 months. A name saved simply as Ada Enugu, his cousin, the one who lives 3 streets from Mama Chidinma's house, the one who checks on the old woman when Samuel cannot. He calls. It rings 4 times. 5. He is about to cut the call when she picks up, her voice thick with the remnants of sleep despite it being past 9 in the morning. Samuel? Eh? What is it? Is everything okay? Ada. His voice is low and steady. Listen to me carefully. I need you to do something today, and I need you to do it without asking me many questions. Can you do that? A pause. He can hear her sitting up, the sound of sheets moving, the particular alertness that enters a person's voice when they understand that a call is not a casual one. I am listening, Ada says. Go to Mama's house this evening, before 7 o'clock. Tell her you want to spend the night. Tell her anything, that you had a dream, that you were passing, that you missed her food, anything. But be inside that house before 7 o'clock tonight, and do not leave until morning. Silence. Samuel. Her voice is careful now, the way a person speaks when they are trying to understand the shape of something before they touch it. What is happening? I will explain everything, he says. But not now. Can you do this for me? Another silence. Shorter this time. I will be there by 6, Ada says. Thank you. He exhales for what feels like the first time since 8:27. And Ada, do not tell anyone you are going. Not your mother, not your friends, nobody. Samuel, nobody, Ada. Please. A breath. Then, okay. He ends the call. He sits for a moment with the phone warm in his hand. Outside, a child is chasing a yellow plastic ball across the road while a woman calls after him from a doorway, her voice carrying the particular mix of fear and love that is the sound of every mother who has ever watched a child run toward a road. Samuel watches until the child is safely back on the pavement. Then he opens the ride app. He has work to do. He has money he needs to make before evening. He has a plan that is only half formed but growing, the way plans grow in a man who has learned that the road ahead reveals itself one turn at a time. But there is one more thing he must do before the day moves forward. One thing he has been avoiding since the moment Dennis stepped out of the car on Broad Street and walked away without looking back. He must decide what to do about his brother. Not tonight. Tonight is about Mama Chidinma. Tonight is about making sure the fire never starts. But after tonight, after the old woman is safe and the plan has failed, and Dennis wakes up to the news that his electrical fault did not happen, after that, there is a reckoning coming. The kind that cannot be avoided. The kind that has been building since 1999, since a road outside Onitsha, since a boy became an orphan and a grandmother opened her arms and something in one of those boys received that love and was healed by it, and something in the other received it and was made hungry for more. Samuel Adewale Okonkwo pulls back into Lagos traffic. He drives carefully, both hands on the wheel. As a wise woman once told a 9-year-old boy, on a veranda, with fireflies rising in the dark around them like small answered prayers, the child who watches in silence learns what the loud child will never know. Samuel has been watching for a very long time. Tonight, the watching ends. By 11 o'clock in the morning, Samuel has completed 2 more trips and is sitting in a go-slow on a Pongbon bridge, the kind of traffic that does not move so much as breathe. Inching forward, stopping, inching again, as if the road itself is exhausted and cannot decide whether to continue. The sun is fully up now, pressing down on the rooftops of the cars and buses around him with the particular intensity of a Lagos November morning that has forgotten it is supposed to be Harmattan season. The air inside the car is warm despite the windows being cracked. Somewhere behind him, a Danfo driver is leaning on his horn for reasons that have nothing to do with the traffic and everything to do with the state of his spirit. Samuel does not lean on his horn. He never does. He is thinking about money. Not in the way a greedy man thinks about money, not counting it in his mind, not imagining what he will do with more of it. He is thinking about it the way a man thinks about a tool he needs and does not yet have enough of. He needs fuel to drive to Enugu tonight. The distance from Lagos to Enugu is approximately 340 kilometers, depending on which road you take. And he knows the roads well, because he has made this journey 6 times in the last 4 years. Twice when Mama Chidinma was ill, once for a cousin's burial, once simply because he had saved enough for a bus ticket and his spirit needed to see her face. By car, with fuel prices what they are this season, the journey will cost him, he calculates quickly, the way a man calculates who has learned to do arithmetic with survival, somewhere between 18 and 22,000 naira in petrol alone. He has, in his account right now, 9,400 naira. In the blessing box, 1,100. He is 10,500 naira short of being able to drive to Enugu tonight. He needs to earn it by 5 o'clock, because he will need to leave by 6 at the latest to arrive before midnight, and he must arrive before midnight, because Dennis said tonight, and tonight in the language of men who do these things does not mean 3 in the morning. It means the hours after the city sleeps and before it wakes, the window between 10 and 1, when darkness is deepest and neighbors are furthest inside their dreams. The traffic moves 3 car lengths forward. Samuel moves with it. His phone buzzes. A ride request, very close, just on the other side of the bridge. He accepts. The passenger is waiting on Carter Street, standing outside a small provision store with 2 large bags of rice at her feet, the 50-kilogram kind, the ones that require a particular commitment to lift. She is a woman of perhaps 65, though she carries herself like someone who stopped counting birthdays at a point when counting them stopped being useful. She is dark-skinned and broad-shouldered, wearing a blue Ankara wrapper and a white blouse with careful embroidery at the collar, and her grey hair is pulled back under a simple headscarf tied without fuss. She is not looking at her phone. She is looking at the road, calmly, the way people look when they are accustomed to waiting and have made peace with it. Her name on the app is Florence A. Samuel Parks, gets out and goes to her. "Good morning, Ma," he says. "Good morning, my son." Her voice is warm and unhurried, the voice of someone who has greeted enough mornings to know that the greeting itself is worth something. "You are the driver? You came quickly." "Yes, Ma. Let me help you." He bends and lifts the first bag of rice with both arms, settles it in the boot. Then the second. He closes the boot carefully. "Hey," she says, watching him. "Thank you. These boys at the store, they loaded it to the door and said their work is finished." She shakes her head with a mild disapproval that contains no real anger, only the gentle exasperation of a woman who has seen enough selfishness to recognize it immediately, and enough kindness to be genuinely surprised when she encounters it. But God provides. "Where are we going, Ma?" Samuel asks, holding the passenger door open. "Agege," she says. "I will direct you when we are close." She settles in. Samuel closes the door, gets behind the wheel, and they move into traffic. They drive for a few minutes in easy silence, the kind of silence that exists between 2 people who are not uncomfortable with each other, simply 2 people each carrying their own mourning. The city passes the windows. A group of school children in yellow uniforms walking in a crooked line. A man pushing a cart of pure water up an incline, his back bent, his legs moving in short certain steps. A woman on a balcony above a shop hanging cloth out to dry, shaking each piece once before pegging it, her movements automatic and practiced as breathing. "You are quiet," Florence says eventually, not as an accusation, as an observation, offered without demand. "I'm sorry, Ma," Samuel says. "Don't be sorry. Quiet is not a bad thing." A pause. "My late husband was a quiet man. He drove trucks, long distance, Kano to Lagos, Lagos to Port Harcourt. He said the road teaches you to be quiet. That if you talk too much while you drive, you miss what the road is trying to tell you." Samuel nods slowly. "He was right, Ma. He was right about many things," she says. And the way she says it, simply, without grief breaking through, the way you speak about someone you have carried in your heart, long enough that the carrying has become comfortable, tells Samuel that this woman has known loss and made a home of it. They turn off the main road. The streets become narrower here, more residential. Face me, I face you, compounds behind low walls, children playing in front of gates, a tailor with his machine set up on the pavement under a tree, his foot pumping steadily, his eyes on his work. Here, Florence says, the blue gate, you see it? He parks, gets out, begins unloading the rice. A girl of about 12 appears from behind the gate, alert, quick-moving, with the brightness in her eyes of a child who has not yet learned to dim herself for other people's comfort. She looks at the bags of rice, then at Samuel, then at her grandmother. "Grandma, I told you I would carry it." "You and who?" Florence says, with the specific affection of a grandmother who teases as a form of love. "Your two thin arms?" "They are not thin." "Samuel, ignore her," Florence says. "Put it just inside the gate, please." Samuel carries both bags through the gate and sets them down in the small compound. It is a clean, modest space, a potted plant near the door, a broom leaning against the wall, a small bench where someone has left a folded newspaper. The house itself is old but well maintained, the kind of old that comes from care rather than neglect. When he returns to the car, Florence is already counting money from a small purse. She hands him the fare, then pauses, then takes out an additional 500 naira note and holds it toward him. "For your trouble," she says. "Ma, it is not trouble." "I did not ask if it was trouble," she says, firmly but without sharpness. "I said it is for your trouble. There is a difference. Take it." He takes it. He puts it in the blessing box without thinking about it. Then something makes him stop. He looks at the box. He thinks about Enugu. He thinks about tonight. He does the arithmetic again, quickly. 9,400 in the account, 1,600 now in the blessing box. 11,000. Still nearly 11,000 short. He closes the compartment. He opens the app. He accepts the next ride. The next ride is a young man going to a printing shop in Mushin who talks the entire journey about a business idea involving reusable packaging and speaks with the specific, intense energy of someone who has been carrying an idea alone for so long that the moment they have an audience, the words come out in one unbroken stream. Samuel listens genuinely. He asks 2 questions. The young man is so surprised to be asked questions that he nearly misses his stop. After that, a woman going to a hospital in Ikeja. She is holding a manila folder of documents against her chest and staring out the window with the expression of someone in the waiting room of something large. Samuel does not speak to her unless she speaks first. He drives smoothly, avoiding potholes with deliberate care, the way you drive when you understand that the person behind you is carrying something fragile. She says, when she arrives, "Thank you for a peaceful ride," as if peace is something she has been rationing. He says, "I hope your day becomes easier, Ma." She looks at him, really looks, the brief startled look of someone who received more than they expected. And then she goes inside. By 1:30 in the afternoon, Samuel has 13 trips completed and is parked outside a filling station in Ikea, eating a small wrap of eBay and a goosey soup he bought for 350 naira from a woman with a flask and a tray at the roadside. He eats slowly, methodically, the way a man eats who understands that food is fuel, and fuel is time, and time today is the most valuable thing he has. His phone rings, not the app, his personal line. Ada. "I went to Mama's house," Ada says without greeting. Her voice is different from this morning, tighter, more careful, like someone speaking in a room they are not sure is empty. "I told her I had a dream about her, and I wanted to come and greet her. She was very happy. She cooked." "Samuel, she made ofe onugbu, just because I came. She went into the kitchen and cooked." Samuel closes his eyes briefly. He can smell it from here. The bitter leaf soup, thick and dark green, the way Mama Chidinma makes it, with enough crayfish to fill the whole room with a smell that means home more completely than any other smell he knows. "She is well?" he asks. "She is well. She is herself, Samuel. She is telling me stories about her own mother. She showed me a photograph I have never seen before." A pause. "I am staying the night. I told her I am too tired to go home and she nearly clapped." "Good," Samuel says. "Good." He breathes. "Ada, I need you to check something for me." The fuse box. It is in the corridor near the back door. I need you to look at it and tell me if anything seems unusual, if anyone has been near it recently. A silence. Samuel, her voice is very quiet now. You need to tell me what is going on. Tonight, he says. I will tell you everything tonight. I am coming. Another silence. When Ada speaks again, her voice has shifted into something harder, the particular hardness of a woman who has understood a portion of the truth and is bracing herself for the rest of it. You are driving from Lagos tonight. Yes. That is 6 hours, Samuel. More, in night traffic. I know the road. Samuel. Ada. I know the road. I will call you when I am 2 hours out. Keep the light on in the front room and stay awake, and lock the gate from the inside, not just the padlock but the bolt as well. You understand? A breath. Then, I understand. He ends the call. He finishes his food. He wraps the paper carefully and places it in the small plastic bag he keeps on the floor for rubbish, because Mama Chidinma taught him that a man who litters is a man who does not respect the ground he walks on, and that ground belongs to everyone. He opens the app again. It is 1:47 in the afternoon. He has until 5 o'clock to earn what he needs. He drives. He drives with the focused, unhurried intensity of a man who has decided. The city seems to sense something different in him because the rides come quickly, one after another, as if Lagos itself is conspiring to help him. Short trips that pay cleanly, passengers who know their destinations and state them clearly, traffic that parts in the small ways. Traffic sometimes parts when the timing is right and there is no logical explanation for it. He does not question it. He drives. At 3:15, a man gets into his car outside a bank in Oshodi and spends the entire ride telling Samuel, unprompted, that he used to drive Danfo before he saved enough to start a small transport business. The road is honest, the man says, looking out the window at the city he clearly knows intimately. It takes everything from you and gives you back exactly what you put in. Not more, not less. Exactly what you put in. Samuel thinks about this for the rest of the afternoon. By 4:58, he pulls into a filling station in Ahota. He checks his account on his phone. He checks the blessing box. He counts. 23,250 naira. Total. He fills the tank completely. He buys 2 bottles of cold water and puts them in the cup holder. He stretches his back, rolls his neck once on each side, and breathes the smell of petrol and dust and late afternoon and the particular quality of light that Lagos has at this hour, golden and heavy, and somehow both beautiful and exhausted, like a man at the end of a long shift who has not yet decided whether today was worth it. He gets back in the car. He calls Ada. I'm leaving now. I'm here, she says. Mama is sleeping. She fell asleep in her chair after evening prayer. Samuel, her voice drops. I found something at the fuse box. His hand tightens on the phone. What did you find? The covering panel, Ada says slowly. It is loose. It was not loose before. I have seen that fuse box 100 times. It was screwed tight. Now it is just sitting there, like someone opened it and did not close it properly. Samuel is very still in the driver's seat. Don't touch it, he says. Don't touch anything near it. Keep Mama in the front room away from the back corridor. I am on my way. He starts the engine. Outside, the sun is beginning its descent over Lagos, painting the sky in long strokes of orange and red and deep purple, the colors of something ending and something else, not yet named, beginning to arrive. Samuel pulls out of the filling station and points the car east toward Enugu, toward the house that is the oldest place in his heart, toward an old woman sleeping in a chair who does not know that tonight her life depends on the quietness of a man she raised to be good in a world that does not always reward goodness. He drives. The road out of Lagos at evening is a different creature entirely from the road of morning. In the morning, the city pushes you out, noise behind you, noise beside you, the feeling of being expelled from something dense and living, like a seed leaving a fruit. But in the evening, when you are driving away from Lagos as the sun goes down and the city lights begin to appear behind you in the mirror, there is a different feeling, a quieter one. The feeling of a man leaving something that does not notice his departure, which is its own particular kind of loneliness. And also, if you are the right kind of man, its own particular kind of freedom. Samuel is past Sagamu before the last of the orange light leaves the sky. The road is the Sagamu-Ore Expressway, which he knows the way a man knows a difficult relative. Its good stretches and its terrible ones, its sections where the tarmac is smooth enough that you can almost forget you are in Nigeria, and its sections where the potholes arrive without warning in the darkness, like questions you were not prepared to answer. He has his headlights on full. He drives at a steady 90 kilometers per hour, not slow enough to waste time, not fast enough to court danger. A measured speed, the speed of a man who intends to arrive. The radio is off. He does not want music tonight. He does not want voices. He wants the sound of the engine and the road and his own thinking, which has been moving steadily since he left Lagos, arranging and rearranging itself like a man organizing a room before important visitors arrive. There are 3 problems he is carrying on this road. The first problem is the immediate one. Tonight, the house, the men Dennis has arranged. This problem has a solution, and Ada is part of it, and his arrival is the rest of it. He does not know exactly what form his arrival will take. He does not have a plan in the action movie sense. He is not a man who fights, not a man who carries weapons, not a man who has ever in his life resolved anything with his fists. But he is a man who has driven through every kind of difficult situation and come out the other side, and he believes, he has to believe, that presence is its own form of power. That a man who stands in the right place at the right time, who refuses to move, who says clearly, "This will not happen," carries more authority than any hired hand who was paid to start a fire and suddenly finds himself looking into the eyes of someone who will not look away. He will be there, and he will not look away. The second problem is Mama Chidinma herself. She does not know. She cannot know. Not yet, not tonight, not in the way that would require Samuel to say the words, "Your grandson, the one you raised, the one you fed first, the one you carried first." He arranged this. Those words, said to a woman of 69 who has given the whole of her life to the people she loves, could do their own kind of damage. A heart can break in ways that are not visible on an X-ray. Samuel has seen it, has seen the light go out in a person's eyes not from sickness, but from the specific grief of betrayal by someone they believed in without reservation. He will protect Mama Chidinma from that knowledge for as long as he can. Not forever, perhaps not even for long. But tonight she will sleep safely, and she will wake up in the morning believing the world is still the shape she has always understood it to be, and that is enough for tonight. The third problem is Dennis. And this is the problem Samuel has no solution to yet. This is the problem he is driving through as much as driving toward. He thinks about his brother, the way you think about a wound that has been with you so long you have learned to walk around it without acknowledging how much it changes your gait. Dennis is 4 years older than Samuel. When their parents died, Samuel was 19 and Dennis was 23. Samuel remembers Dennis at the funeral, remembers being surprised by the absence of tears, by the way Dennis stood at the graveside with his jaw set and his eyes dry, and something in his expression that Samuel at 19 read as strength, and that he now at 41 understands was calculation. Even then, even at the burial of their own parents, Dennis was already calculating what came next, what was owed, what could be claimed, what could be taken. A truck passes him on the left, massive, overloaded, swaying slightly with the particular arrogance of heavy vehicles on Nigerian roads that have decided the rules of physics apply to everyone else. Samuel eases slightly to the right without breaking his speed, giving the truck its room, watching it thunder past and disappear into the darkness ahead like a problem that belongs to somebody else tonight. He thinks of a Sunday, perhaps 10 years ago, maybe 11, when Dennis came to Lagos for a weekend and they sat together in Samuel's small apartment and drank palm wine and talked in the easy way they sometimes managed then, before Dennis's ambitions had grown large enough to require the whole room. Dennis had said something that evening that Samuel has not thought about in years, but that comes back to him now on this dark road with the clarity of things that were always important and never properly examined. Dennis had said, "Samuel, you are too comfortable with small things. You drive your car, you make your small money, you call Mama on Sunday, and you are satisfied. That is not enough for a man. A man should want more. A man should take more. Samuel had laughed. Take from where? He had asked. Dennis had looked at him with something that was not quite contempt, but was close to it. The look of a man who has decided his companion is too simple to be argued with and too familiar to be abandoned. From wherever it is available, Dennis had said. That is the only honest answer. Samuel had not argued. He had poured more palm wine and changed the subject, the way you change the subject when you understand that the conversation has reached a place where nothing useful can happen. He wishes now, on this road, in this dark, that he had argued. He wishes he had said, Dennis, what you are describing is not ambition, it is hunger. And hunger that is never disciplined becomes something that eats the man himself, not just the things around him. He wishes he had been braver with the truth when the truth was smaller and might still have fit through the door. But he had not. And now the truth is enormous and standing in the road. His phone rings through the car speaker. Ada. Where are you? She asks. Past Or, he says. Maybe 2.5 hours. How is Mama? Still sleeping. She moved to the bedroom at 9 o'clock. I am in the sitting room. A pause. It is quiet here, Samuel. Too quiet. I keep watching the gate. Have you heard anything outside? Nothing yet. A dog barking, that is all, but... She stops. But what? Samuel, I am afraid. He hears it in her voice. Not the general fear of a woman alone at night in a house, but the specific fear of someone who understands the particular nature of what they are waiting for. Ada is 36 years old, and she is a practical woman, a trader who deals in fabric and manages her own small business with the quiet competence of someone who learned early that the world does not organize itself on your behalf. She is not someone who frightens easily. The fear in her voice now is real and earned. You are doing well, Samuel says. Keep the lights on inside, but switch off the outside light. I don't want anyone to know someone is awake. Lock every window in the back of the house. Can you do that now, while we are talking? He hears her moving. The sound of her footsteps on the floor he knows. That particular creak in the corridor near the back door that has been there since he was a child, and that Mama Chidinma always said she would fix and never did, because she secretly liked that it announced people's movements. A window latch. Another. Done, Ada says. Good. Now sit in Mama's bedroom, not the sitting room, her bedroom. If you hear anything at the gate or near the back of the house, wake her gently and take her to the bathroom. It is the most interior room and it has no windows. You understand? Yes. Her voice is steadier now. Instructions help. Purpose helps. A person who knows what to do with their hands is less afraid than a person who is only waiting. And Ada. He pauses. He has been thinking about this since Sagamu. There is a neighbor, the one on the left side, Mazi Okafor, the retired policeman. He is still there. He is still there. He sits outside every evening. He was outside when I arrived. Go and knock on his door, Samuel says. Tell him that you are visiting Mama Chidinma and that you are a little uncomfortable because you thought you saw someone unfamiliar near the back of the compound earlier. Tell him you would feel better knowing he is aware. You do not have to say more than that. A silence. He can hear Ada thinking through it. You want him alert without alarming him. Yes. Okay. A breath. Okay. I can do that. Go now, while it is still a reasonable hour to knock. Come back and call me when you have spoken to him. She goes. He drives. The road between Or and Benin is the section he always respects most. Long straightaways that tempt speed, then sudden curves that punish it, with the darkness on either side absolute in a way that city people forget is possible. A darkness without streetlights or compound lights or the distant glow of a filling station, just trees and road and sky and whatever is moving in the bush alongside that you cannot see. He has driven this road in the rain and in Harmattan, and in the middle of the night when he was 24 and terrified and going home because his grandmother had called and said she was not feeling well, and her voice had carried something in it that he had not been able to name or ignore. He drives it now with the same determination he had then, perhaps more. Ada calls back in 12 minutes. I spoke to him, she says, and her voice carries the slight relief of a task completed. He was. Samuel, he was very nice. He said he has been sleeping lightly for the past few nights because he thought he heard movement near the back fence 2 nights ago. He thought it was a cat. Now he is not so sure. Samuel's jaw tightens. 2 nights ago. Someone has been looking at the house. Preparing. What did he say he would do? He said he will stay outside for a while and keep his eye on things. He has a... Samuel. He has a torch and something he called his retirement persuader. A small, involuntary laugh from Ada, the kind of laugh that comes out sideways when you are frightened and something briefly and unexpectedly strikes you as funny. I did not ask what that meant. It is better you didn't, Samuel says. They talk for a few more minutes. He tells her he will call again when he reaches Asaba. She tells him to be careful on the road. She says it the way Mama Chidinma used to say it when he was young, not as a generic farewell, but as a specific request, addressed to the road and to God and to Samuel himself simultaneously. He drives through Benin City just after 11. The city is quieter at this hour, but not quiet, never fully quiet. A Nigerian city at night has its own reduced but persistent music. The generators and the night watchmen and the food sellers who serve the people who keep hours the day shift never cease. He stops briefly at a filling station just before the Benin-Asaba road, uses the bathroom, buys 1 more bottle of water, stretches his back against the car for 30 seconds, and gets back in. He is perhaps 90 minutes from Enugu. He calls Ada from Asaba, as promised. She reports nothing unusual. Mazi Okafor is still outside. She can see his torchlight from the window occasionally sweeping the fence line. Mama Chidinma is sleeping deeply. The house is quiet. Nearly there, Samuel says. Drive carefully, Ada says. The 9th-mile stretch. You know how it is at night. He knows. He drives it carefully. He drives it the way his father used to drive it when Samuel was small and they were coming home for Christmas. With both hands, with attention, with respect for the darkness and for the unknown things inside it. He drives it the way a man drives when what waits at the end of the road is worth arriving to. He is 40 minutes outside Enugu when his phone rings. Not Ada. Not a number he recognizes. He lets it ring twice, then answers. Silence on the other end. Then breathing. Then a voice. Young, male, uncertain, carrying the specific quality of someone who has recently made a decision and is not yet sure it was the right one. Oga, the voice says, are you coming to Enugu tonight? Samuel's hands are very still on the wheel. Who is this? He asks. A pause. My name is not important, Oga. But what the thing that was supposed to happen tonight at Obiagu Road? Another pause. Longer. I cannot do it. I told them I cannot do it. There is an old woman inside and I have a grandmother, Oga. I could not. The voice breaks slightly at the edge, the way a young voice breaks when it is telling the truth, and the truth is large. I left. But the others, I don't know if the others left also. Samuel's foot presses the accelerator. How many others? He asks. His voice is completely calm. This is the voice he uses in the worst Lagos traffic, in the moments when calm is the only tool that works. 2, the young man says, but Oga, I swear to you, when I left, they were still arguing about it. There was disagreement. The money was not all paid yet, and they were. What is your name? Samuel says. Not a question, a command delivered gently, a breath. Chukwuemeka, the young man says. They call me Emeka Jr. Not the Emeka from the phone call, a different one. A hired hand who is found at the last moment, something inside himself that the man who hired him assumed was not there. Chukwuemeka, Samuel says. You did a good thing tonight. Do you hear me? You did a good thing. A pause. Now tell me everything they said. Every detail. And when I have arrived safely, I will make sure you are protected. You have my word. The young man begins to talk. And Samuel drives faster now, both hands on the wheel, the headlights cutting the dark Enugu road into a path that is just wide enough for one determined man, the engine of his old car singing with effort beneath him, every kilometer of tarmac disappearing under the tires like a prayer answered, one at a time, until the lights of the city he loves most appear on the horizon ahead of him like something waiting to be saved. Samuel enters Enugu at 12:47 in the morning. The city receives him the way Enugu always receives those who arrive late and with purpose, quietly, without ceremony, with the particular dignity of a place that does not need to announce itself. The streets are not empty, but they are sparse, the kind of sparse that feels intentional, as if the city has sent most of itself to sleep and kept only what is necessary awake. A night watchman sitting on a stool outside a pharmacy, his chin lifting as headlights pass. Two women walking quickly on the far side of the road with basins on their heads, returning from somewhere or going to somewhere, their footsteps purposeful in the silence. A generator humming behind a compound wall, steady and self-contained as a heartbeat. Samuel knows these streets in his bones. He turns off his headlights 2 streets before Obiagu Road. This is a decision he makes without deliberating, the instinct of a man who has been quietly thinking for 6 hours and whose body has arrived at conclusions his conscious mind is only now catching up to. Dark headlights mean he cannot be seen approaching, cannot be announced, cannot give anyone the seconds they would need to scatter or to hurry what they came to do. He rolls the car to a stop 50 meters from Mama Chidinma's gate and sits very still. He calls Ada. She picks up on the first ring, which tells him she has not slept, that she has been sitting exactly where he told her to sit with the phone in her hand, waiting. "I am outside," he says quietly, 50 meters from the gate. "What do you hear?" A pause in which he can feel her listening, genuinely listening, her whole body turned toward the sounds of the house and the compound and the night outside it. "Nothing," she says. "It has been quiet for the last hour." Mazi Okafor. His light stopped moving about 40 minutes ago. "I think he may have gone inside." Samuel looks at the dark street ahead. The gate is visible from here, the old green metal gate that Mama Chidinma has never changed because she says the color reminds her of the farm her own mother kept in Udi, where the leaves were that particular deep green after rain. He can see the padlock. He can see the bolt bar across the middle that Ada secured earlier. He can see the wall on either side, old concrete with a broken bottle mosaic along the top. The old-fashioned security, the kind that requires no electricity and no subscription. He looks at the wall on the right side, the side that faces the narrow passage between this compound and the next. Something is different on that wall. He looks more carefully. The moonlight tonight is generous, a 3/4 moon sitting high and unobstructed, throwing everything into the particular silver clarity of deep Nigerian night, the kind of light that makes familiar things look both more and less real than they do in day. On the wall on the right side, one section of the broken bottle mosaic is gone. Not fallen. Gone. Cleared. A section perhaps 1 meter wide, where the glass has been removed cleanly, leaving a smooth ridge of concrete that a man could grip without cutting his hands. That work was done carefully. Done beforehand. Done by someone who came and prepared and left and was planning to come back. "Ada," Samuel says, "wake Mama Chidinma. Do it gently. Tell her you heard something outside and you want her to come and sit with you in the bathroom for a short while. Do it now, before I get out of this car." "Samuel?" "Now, Ada, gently. I will be inside in 3 minutes." He ends the call. He sits for 10 more seconds, watching the wall, watching the gate, watching the street in both directions. He sees no movement. He hears nothing but the distant generator and the very faint sound of a dog somewhere expressing a concern that nobody is taking seriously. He gets out of the car. He closes the door without a sound. The careful, deliberate click of a man who has learned in 11 years of driving that a door closed properly does not need force, only attention. He walks toward the gate, not hurrying, not slowing, moving at the speed of purpose. He has the spare key to the gate in his pocket. Mama Chidinma gave it to him years ago, pressed it into his palm when he was leaving after one of his visits, saying, "This house is your house, Samuel, and your key should always work in it." He unlocks the padlock. He slides the bolt. He pushes the gate open just wide enough to pass through and closes it behind him, replacing the bolt, but not the padlock. The compound is dark, except for the thin yellow line of light visible under the front door of the house, which tells him Ada has at least one light on inside. The compound smells the way it has always smelled, red earth and the specific green smell of the pawpaw tree near the back wall that has been there since before Samuel was born, and underneath everything, faint but present, the smell of the house itself, that smell that has no name. He moves toward the house. He is perhaps 5 steps from the front door when he hears it, a sound from the right side of the compound. Not a loud sound, not a dramatic sound, not the sound that would feature in a film to announce danger. It is a small sound, the soft impact of a shoe finding ground, the sound of weight transferring carefully from a height, the sound of someone who has practiced landing quietly and almost succeeded. Almost. Samuel stops walking. He does not turn immediately. He breathes once, fully, the way you breathe before something that requires everything you have. Then he turns. There are 2 of them. They are young. This is the first thing he notices, and it hits him with a complicated force. Young men, perhaps 22, 23, dressed in dark clothing, one of them holding something Samuel cannot immediately identify in the moonlight, and then can, a small metal container, the kind that holds kerosene, and a rolled cloth wick that he holds separately, not yet assembled. The other has nothing visible in his hands, and is standing slightly behind the first, and his body language tells Samuel immediately that this one is afraid. This one is the one who agreed and has been regretting it since. They see Samuel. Nobody moves. This moment, this specific held moment where 3 people stand in a moonlit compound in Enugu in the middle of the night and look at each other, lasts perhaps 4 seconds. It feels much longer. It has the quality of something that will be remembered in detail, the kind of memory that keeps its texture. Samuel speaks first. His voice is not raised. It is not aggressive. It carries no threat, no anger, no performance. It is simply the voice of a man stating what is true. "Put it down," he says. The one holding the container looks at Samuel. He is trying to calculate. Samuel can see it happening behind his eyes, the quick arithmetic of a young man trying to determine whether the man standing in front of him is an obstacle or a danger, or something else entirely. "Ogre," the young man starts. I said, "Put it down." Still the same voice. Still no anger. Just the absolute certainty of a man who has driven 6 hours and is standing in his grandmother's compound at 12:51 in the morning and will not be moved by anything this world has arranged for tonight. You are not going to do this thing. You know you are not going to do this thing. So put it down and let us talk like men. The one standing behind takes a half step backward. He is the more frightened one. He is the one who, in different circumstances, might have been the one who called like Chukwuemeka called. But he did not call, and now he is here, and he is realizing with his whole body that this is not what he agreed to, not really, that somewhere between the money-changing hands and this moment, the thing he thought he was doing has revealed itself as something else entirely. "There is an old woman sleeping in that house," Samuel says, and now something does change in his voice, not anger, but weight. The weight of love stated plainly. "She is 69 years old. She raised me. She raised the man who sent you here. She cooked for us and prayed for us and told us stories when we were frightened, and she has never, not once, not in her whole life, done a single thing to deserve what you came here to do tonight." The young man with the container is very still. "Whoever paid you," Samuel continues, "did not tell you this. He told you it was a house. An empty house with old wiring. He told you it would be simple. He did not tell you about the woman inside because if he had told you the truth, you would not have come. Isn't that so?" A long silence. Then the young man sets the container down on the ground. He sets it down carefully, which is its own kind of answer. The carefulness of a man who has decided. The one behind him releases a breath that sounds like it has been held since Lagos. Samuel looks at them both. He looks at them the way Mama Chidinma used to look at him when he was a boy who had done something wrong. Not with the desire to punish, but with the desire to reach past the wrong thing to the person underneath it. "What are your names?" he asks. The first one, after a moment, Kelechi. The second, barely audible, Tobena. Kelechi. Tobena. Samuel nods once, slowly. "You are going to leave this compound tonight, and you are never coming back to do this kind of work again. Not for this man, not for any man. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Kelechi looks at the ground, then up. The money is already spent in your mind, Samuel says. I know how this works. Go home. Sleep. In the morning, when you wake up and this compound is not ash, and that woman is eating her breakfast, you will understand what you chose tonight. And it will feel better than any money. Neither of them says anything. Samuel steps to the side of the path, creating a clear line to the gate. He unlocks it from the inside and pushes it open. He stands beside it without moving, without speaking, without any gesture of threat or hurry. Kelechi picks up the container. Samuel watches him. He carries it with him. He is not leaving the evidence, which is smart. And he walks through the gate without looking back. Tobena follows, and at the last second, just as he is passing through the gate, he stops and turns and looks at Samuel with an expression that is difficult to name. Shame and relief, and something else, something younger, something that looks almost like the face of a child who expected punishment and received instead the more demanding gift of being treated as someone who could make a better choice. He says nothing, but he looks, and then he is gone. Samuel closes the gate. He replaces the bolt. He stands in the compound alone for a moment, listening to their footsteps fade down the street, and then to the silence that follows, which is the deep and genuine silence of a night that has just changed its shape. He turns and goes into the house. Ada is in the corridor, one hand pressed to her chest, her eyes wide. Behind her, visible through the half-open bedroom door, is Mama Chidinma, sitting upright in her bed with her headscarf slightly askew and her reading glasses still on from where she fell asleep, looking with the alert, steady calm of a woman who has lived long enough that the middle of the night holds no special terror for her, only inconvenience. Samuel, Mama Chidinma says, quietly, without surprise, as if she knew, as if she always knew he would come. He crosses the corridor and goes into her bedroom and sits on the edge of her bed, the same edge he sat on as a boy when he had bad dreams, the same squeaking of the old spring under the mattress, the same smell of camphor and shea butter, and the specific warmth of a room that has been lived in by the same beloved person for 40 years. She reaches out and takes his face in both her hands. Her palms are warm and dry and certain, the hands of a woman who has held this face since before it knew itself. She looks at him. She does not ask what happened. She does not ask why he is here in the middle of the night after 6 hours on the road. She simply looks at him, the way she has always looked at him, as if he is something she made and is proud of and will never stop being grateful for. You are thin, she says. He laughs. It comes out of him with a force that surprises him. A real laugh, the kind that is partly relief and partly love, and partly the sheer improbability of being here, in this room, with this woman, who after everything that has nearly happened tonight, is looking at him and telling him he is thin. I am fine, Mama, he says. You drove from Lagos. Yes. She makes a sound, the specific Igbo sound of mild scolding delivered with total love, a sound that has no direct English translation, but means something like, you foolish, wonderful child. She keeps his face in her hands a moment longer. Then she pats his cheek twice and releases him. There is soup on the stove, she says, from this afternoon. Go and warm it. You cannot drive 6 hours and not eat. He looks at her. Ada, in the doorway, is pressing her lips together against something that might be tears or might be laughter or might be both. Mama, Samuel says carefully, I need to talk to you. Not tonight, but soon. There are things I need to tell you. She looks at him with eyes that have seen 70 years of this world's arrangements, that have buried parents and a husband and one of her own children, and have remained, despite everything, fundamentally undeceived about the nature of life. I know, she says simply. He waits. She smooths the cover of her bed with one hand. A grandmother always knows, she says quietly. She just waits for the child to be ready to speak. The generator outside hums. The pawpaw tree shifts in a small breeze. Somewhere on the street, the night watchman's whistle sounds once, faint and steady, the sound of someone faithfully marking the hours. Samuel gets up and goes to the kitchen to warm the soup. And in the compound outside, the green gate stands closed and bolted and whole, and the house stands, and the old woman inside it sleeps again before he has finished eating, her breathing slow and even, and completely unaware that tonight, in the silence she is sleeping through, something that could have destroyed everything she built chose instead not to arrive. And the fire that was supposed to come did not come. Not tonight, not ever, if Samuel has anything to say about it. If you have been with us from the very beginning of this story, from that Lagos morning to this Enugu midnight, then you are exactly the kind of person this story was made for. Share it now. Someone in your life needs to hear that goodness still wins, that a quiet man can move mountains, that a grandmother's love is worth driving 6 hours in the dark to protect. And tell us in the comments, did you believe Samuel would make it in time? Drop your answer below. We are almost at the end, and what is coming will stay with you. Samuel sleeps on the parlor floor. Not because there is no bed. Mama Chidinma has a second bedroom, the one that was always called the boys' room, the one where he and Dennis slept head to foot on a narrow mattress during childhood visits, arguing in whispers about who had more space until one of them fell asleep mid-sentence. That room is still there. The mattress is still there. But Samuel does not go to it tonight. Tonight he takes the thick throw blanket from the back of the parlor chair, the one with the faded orange and brown pattern that has been in this house since before he was born, and he lays it on the parlor floor between the front door and the corridor, and he lies down on it with his car keys in his hand and his phone face up beside him, and he sleeps the way a man sleeps when he has done what needed doing and the rest belongs to morning. He sleeps for 4 hours and 12 minutes. He knows the exact duration because he looks at his phone when he lies down, 1:53, and he looks at it again when he wakes, which is 6:05, with the particular completeness of a man whose body understands that the emergency is over and rest has been taken in full. The light coming through the curtain gaps is the pale grey gold of very early morning, the kind of light that arrives before it is sure of itself, feeling its way across the floor in thin strips. He hears Mama Chidinma in the kitchen before he is fully upright. The sound of it, the particular percussion of that kitchen, the clay pot being moved on the gas ring, the wooden spoon against the side of a bowl, the running tap with its characteristic hesitation before the pressure builds, all the small sounds of a woman beginning her morning in the space she has inhabited for 40 years. This sound does something to Samuel's chest that he does not try to name. He lies still for a moment and simply listens to it. He lets it be what it is. Then he gets up, folds the blanket, replaces it on the chair, and goes to wash his face. Ada is already awake, sitting at the dining table with a cup of tea and her phone, her eyes carrying the particular quality of someone who has not slept enough, but is too alert to go back. She looks up when Samuel comes out of the bathroom. They look at each other for a moment in the early morning, quiet. "How do you feel?" she asks. "Like a man who drove 6 hours," he says. "You look like it too," she says without unkindness. He sits across from her. Outside, a rooster somewhere in the neighborhood announces the morning with the absolute confidence of a creature that believes its voice is responsible for the sun. From the kitchen, the smell of a kamu begins to reach them, that warm, slightly fermented smell of morning that belongs specifically to grandmothers, that no one else in the world makes the same way. "What happens now?" Ada asks. She wraps both hands around her cup. Her voice is measured, practical, but underneath it Samuel can hear the things she is really asking, not just about today, but about the larger shape of things, about Dennis, about Mama Chidinma, about what the truth does once it has been let out of its container. "Now," Samuel says, "I go to see my brother." Ada is quiet for a moment. Then, "Alone?" "Yes." Samuel, "He is not a dangerous man, Ada. He is a greedy one. There is a difference." He pauses. "Dangerous men act when they are cornered. Greedy men negotiate. Dennis will negotiate." Ada looks at him over her cup. "And what do you have to negotiate with?" Samuel folds his hands on the table. He looks at them. The calloused right more than the left, the hands that have driven every difficult road this country has put in front of him. And he thinks about the answer to that question, which he has been assembling since somewhere around the 9th mile stretch in the dark, somewhere between the knowing and the arriving. "Everything," he says. "I know what he planned. I know who he used. I have a name. Chukwemeka, the one who called me. I have another name. Kelechi, who was here last night and will say what he came to do if it ever reaches that point. I have the testimony of a retired policeman who heard movement at this compound 2 nights ago. And I have... He pauses, and something changes in his expression, something that is not quite anger and not quite grief, but carries elements of both, refined by the night, into something harder and more purposeful. I have 37 years of knowing my brother. Every negotiation he has ever conducted, he conducted with people who did not know him completely. I know him completely. He has never had to sit across from someone who does. Ada says nothing for a long moment. Then she exhales through her nose, a sound that is not quite a sigh and not quite a laugh, but lands somewhere between them. The sound of a woman who has considered the situation from every angle and found that the man across from her has considered it more thoroughly. Eat first, she says. Mama is making a kamu. He eats first. Mama Chidinma serves them herself, moving between the kitchen and the table with the unhurried authority of a woman in her own space, placing the bowls down with a small decisive click that means, eat, don't discuss. The akamu is the right consistency, not too thick, not loose, sweetened with just enough sugar, the way she has always made it, and there is fried akara beside it, golden and slightly crisp on the outside, soft within, still warm from the oil. Samuel eats slowly. He watches his grandmother move. He watches the way she holds herself, straight-backed, deliberate, her wrapper tied firmly, her headscarf replaced with a fresh one this morning. 69 years old, and she moves like a woman who has decided that age is a fact to be acknowledged and then set aside. She sits with them when she has served herself. She eats. She asks Ada about her business, the fabric shop, the new supplier Ada has been negotiating with, a wedding order that is behind schedule. She asks with genuine interest, following Ada's answers with the specific attention of a woman who believes that other people's lives are inherently interesting and deserve to be treated as such. She does not ask Samuel why he came in the night. She does not ask about the gate or the sounds or the thing that hung in the air of the compound in the early hours. She eats her akamu and discusses Ada's fabric business and occasionally looks at Samuel with a look that contains everything and demands nothing. When the bowls are cleared, she folds her hands on the table and looks at Samuel directly. "Tell me what you need to tell me," she says. "I am ready." Samuel looks at her. He thinks of what he said last night, not tonight, but soon. And she has given him the night and the morning meal, and now she is asking, not because she cannot wait, but because she is ready, because she has been ready, because she is, as she has always been, more prepared for the truth than anyone gives her credit for. He tells her. He does not soften it beyond what compassion requires. He tells her about the ride on Thursday morning. He tells her about Dennis's voice, the insurance policy, the words tonight, an electrical fault, and she is nearly deaf on the left side. He tells her about Ada's arrival, about Mazi Okafor, about the phone call from Chukwemeka in the dark somewhere between Benin and Asaba. He tells her about parking 50 meters from the gate with his headlights off, about the cleared section of wall, about 2 young men standing in her compound in the moonlight with a kerosene container and a cloth wick. He tells her all of it. He watches her face as he speaks. She does not cry. She does not speak. She sits with her hands folded and her back straight and her eyes on Samuel's face, and she receives every word with the stillness of a woman who has spent 69 years understanding that life will sometimes bring you to a table you did not set and did not choose, and that the only dignified response is to sit down at it fully and not look away. When he finishes, there is a silence. Ada is looking at the table. Outside, the morning has fully arrived now. The rooster long finished, replaced by the regular sounds of a neighborhood waking, a child's voice, a gate opening down the street, the diesel rattle of a bread seller's van making its morning rounds. "Dennis," Mama Chidinma says finally. Just the name. No question attached to it. Just the name, held in the mouth a moment, the way you hold something to understand its weight. "Yes, Mama," Samuel says. She nods very slowly. Then she looks out the window at the compound, at the pawpaw tree, at the gate, at the piece of morning sky visible above the wall. She looks at it the way she looked at Samuel last night, when she held his face in her hands, as something she made and is responsible for, and cannot stop loving even now. "I know I failed him," she says quietly. "Mama," Ada starts. "I am not asking for comfort," she says, gently but firmly. "I am stating what I know. I loved Dennis in the way that seemed right at the time, and it was not the right way, and I have known this for many years. A mother," she pauses, corrects herself, "a grandmother knows her own mistakes. She does not always know how to fix them, but she knows them." Samuel reaches across the table and puts his hand over hers. She looks at their hands, then at him. "Go," she says. "Go and speak to him." But Samuel, her grip tightens, briefly, on his hand. Her eyes carry something that is not quite a warning and not quite a plea, but exists in the space between them. "Do not become what you are fighting, you understand me. Whatever he has done, you go there as my Samuel, not as something anger made." "Yes, Mama," he says. She releases his hand. She straightens. She picks up her cup. "Drive carefully," she says. He finds Dennis at his apartment in Asata, on the good side of Enugu, where the streets are wider and the compounds have small gardens in front that are watered by someone paid to water them. He has been to this apartment twice before. Once for a birthday that Dennis held for himself, with the particular enthusiasm of a man who believes celebrations are a form of announcement. And once to return a phone charger Dennis left in their grandmother's house, and that Samuel drove 40 minutes out of his way to return because it was the right thing to do. He presses the buzzer at the gate at 9:17 in the morning. A housegirl answers through the intercom, and he gives his name, and there is a long pause, longer than it should be, before the gate clicks open. Dennis is in the sitting room when Samuel enters, dressed already in pressed trousers and an ironed shirt. A man who has maintained his composure as armor for so long that he puts it on before he is fully awake. He is holding a phone, but not looking at it. He has the expression of a man who received a phone call sometime last night or early this morning, from Kelechi, or from Emeka, or from the silence itself, which is sometimes the loudest messenger, and has spent the hours since constructing his response. He looks at Samuel standing in his sitting room doorway at 9:17 on a Friday morning, and he says, "You were in Enugu." "Sit down, Dennis," Samuel says. Something flickers in Dennis's eyes, the reflex resistance of a man who does not take instructions, and then it passes, and he sits. Samuel sits across from him. He does not look around the room. He does not take in the large television or the glass cabinet with the bottles arranged for display, or the framed photographs that Dennis has placed carefully to tell a story about himself to anyone who visits. He looks only at his brother. "I was in the car on Thursday morning," Samuel says. Dennis is very still. "I heard everything." A long silence. The kind of silence that has weight and shape, that presses against the walls of a room. Dennis's jaw moves slightly. His negotiating mind is running. Samuel can see it, can read it, the way you read the road when you have been driving long enough. The calculations, the angles, the assessment of what Samuel knows and what can still be denied, and what pressure might be applied, and whether— "I have two names," Samuel says quietly. "I have a retired policeman who heard movement at the compound 2 nights ago and will make a statement. I have enough, Dennis." A pause. "I have more than enough." Dennis looks at him. Something is happening in his face. A slow process, like weather changing. The particular collapse of a structure that was built for display rather than for holding weight. It does not happen all at once. It happens in stages. The jaw first, releasing its upward set. Then the shoulders, dropping a fraction. Then the eyes, which lose their calculating distance and become, briefly and terribly, the eyes of a younger man. A man Samuel has not seen in a very long time. The boy who stood dry-eyed at his parents' grave and was called strong and was not strong, only early in his damage. "What do you want?" Dennis asks. His voice is different now, flatter, smaller. "I don't want anything," Samuel says. "I want nothing from you, Dennis. That is the truth." He leans forward slightly. But I am going to tell you what is going to happen. You are going to leave Mama Chidinma alone. The house, the insurance, every scheme you have constructed around what you think you are owed, it ends. Today. You are going to call whoever you need to call, and you are going to make it end. Dennis says nothing. And you are going to come to Mama's house, Samuel continues. Not today, not this week. But before the end of this month, you are going to sit in front of that woman, the one who cooked your food and told you stories and loved you with everything she had, and you are going to look at her. You are not going to confess to her, because I have decided to protect her from the full truth of this as long as she lives. But you are going to sit with her, and you are going to be, for 1 hour, the grandson she believes you to be, so that she can die, whenever God decides that time is, with that belief intact. That is not a request. The room is very quiet. Dennis's hand is flat on his knee. His knuckles are not white. He is not fighting this, Samuel realizes. He is receiving it. Somewhere underneath the armor and the calculation and the years of acquiring things to fill a space that things cannot fill, he is receiving it the way a man receives something he has owed for a long time and is both relieved and destroyed to finally pay. And if I don't, Dennis says quietly. A reflex. The last gesture of a man who negotiates the way other men breathe. Then I take what I have to Mazi Okafor, Samuel says simply. And it goes where it goes. A breath, a long breath. Dennis looks at his hands. You drove from Lagos, he says. Yes. 6 hours. Yes. Dennis is quiet for a moment. Then, so softly that Samuel almost does not hear it. She is well. And this small, barely voiced question, this crack in the surface through which the boy underneath briefly looks out, is the most painful thing Samuel has heard in this room, more painful than any denial or threat could have been, because it means that somewhere inside his brother, she still matters. That he did not become so hollowed out that she stopped mattering, that the love exists and the damage exists simultaneously in the same chest, the way the river and the flood exist in the same water. She is well, Samuel says. She made a kamu this morning and talked about Ada's fabric business and did not ask me why I drove 6 hours in the dark. A pause. She is who she has always been, in spite of everything. Dennis nods. Once. He does not speak again. Samuel stands. He straightens his faded blue shirt, the one with the Uber insignia, the one he's been wearing since Thursday morning, since a photograph above a door in Ajagunle, and a private promise made to himself and to God and to the road. He looks at his brother one last time. He thinks of a proverb, not one Mama Chidinma taught him, but one he has constructed himself in the 11 years of driving this country's roads and watching what people do when they think no one important is watching. A man who cannot be kind to those beneath him will eventually find himself beneath everyone. He does not say it aloud. It is not the moment for it. It is enough that he knows it. It is enough that he stood here. He walks to the door. He opens it. The morning air comes in, Enugu morning air, which is different from Lagos morning air, cooler and cleaner, carrying the memory of the surrounding hills. Samuel. He stops. Does not turn. Dennis's voice is very quiet. It has lost every quality it had in the back of the car on Thursday morning. The speed, the certainty, the cold efficiency of a man mid-transaction. What remains is something much older and much less defended. I am sorry, Dennis says. Samuel stands in the doorway for a moment with the Enugu morning at his back. He thinks of his grandmother's hands on his face last night. He thinks of the blessing box under his dashboard. He thinks of an old man in Lekki who said, I think you will find the courage before it is too late. He thinks of a boy on a veranda in the evening, a bowl of groundnut soup, fireflies rising above the compound grass, and a woman's voice telling a story that he did not know. Then he would spend his whole life trying to live up to. He does not say it is fine. It is not fine. It may not be fine for a very long time. But he says, come and see her before the end of the month, Dennis. And he walks out into the morning. He drives back to Mama Chidinma's house. He parks in front of the green gate. He sits in the car for a moment with the engine off, in the particular silence of arrival, and he looks at the gate, green, old, unchanged, standing exactly as it has always stood, the same gate through which a 7-year-old boy first carried his own bag and felt like a man, through which a 19-year-old came weeping and was received without conditions, through which a 41-year-old returned last night in the dark, with nothing but his presence and his stubbornness, and his refusal to let the fire come. He gets out of the car. He goes inside. Mama Chidinma is on the veranda. She is sitting in her chair with her hands in her lap and her face turned toward the compound, toward the pawpaw tree and the morning light moving through its leaves. She is not doing anything. She is simply sitting, the way very old people sometimes sit, fully, without restlessness, as if they have learned that being present in a place is itself a complete activity. She hears his footsteps and turns. "Did you eat?" she asks. He laughs. He sits beside her on the bench that has been on this veranda since before he was born, the wood smooth and dark with the years of people sitting on it. "I will eat now, Mama," he says. She nods. She looks back at the compound. He looks at it with her, at the pawpaw tree, at the gate, at the small square of sky above the wall where two birds are conducting a conversation on a wire. "You know what I always say," Mama Chidinma says after a while. Her voice is the river that has been flowing so long it no longer needs to rush. "Tell me," Samuel says. She looks at him with her whole face, unhurried, certain, full of something that has survived everything life placed in front of it and remains, inexplicably and stubbornly, itself. "The tree that survives the storm," she says, "does not survive because it was never bent. It survives because its roots went deeper than the storm could reach." Samuel looks at her. He thinks of Thursday morning and a steering wheel and a voice he was not supposed to hear. He thinks of a dark road and a young man's phone call and a moonlit compound and two boys who chose, at the last possible moment, not to become what they had been paid to be. He thinks of his brother's face losing its armor, piece by piece, in a bright Asata sitting room. He thinks of this woman, this veranda, these roots. He reaches over and takes her hand. She lets him hold it. She looks back at the compound. The birds on the wire finish their conversation and fly away separately in different directions, each toward something the other cannot see. The morning holds, the house stands. And Samuel Adewale Okonkwo, humble driver, quiet man, grandson, and the kind of person the world sometimes secretly organizes itself around without his knowledge, sits on his grandmother's veranda in the Enugu morning and does not need to be anywhere else on earth. The end. If this story moved you, if Samuel's journey from that Lagos car to this Enugu veranda touched something in your heart, then this channel is your home. Subscribe right now and ring the bell, because every week we bring you stories rooted in Africa's truth, her wisdom, her fire, and her grace. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that goodness is still moving in the world. And leave us one word in the comments, just one word, that describes how you feel right now. We will read every single one. From wherever you are watching, Lagos, London, Accra, Johannesburg, New York, or anywhere in this wide world our people have carried themselves, thank you for being here. We will see you in the next story.